Are you suffering from the same hair loss as mine? Every time I comb, it's like another part of me is gone.
Mum, I got you the herbal tea you like. Oh, and almonds, they're good for. Hey, what happened?
Another clump today. Bigger than yesterday.
We're not letting this beat you. I'm going to fix this, okay?
Sarah Adge had always been a strong woman, a teacher, a mother, a widow. But at 65, it wasn't the loneliness or age that was wearing her down. It was hair loss, the slow daily erosion of identity. And it was affecting more than just her scalp. It was her spirit. Sarah's frustration settled into the walls of the home like a slow fog. The emotional weight of her hair loss had become more than an aesthetic concern. It was something darker. A quiet mourning. Each strand that fell seemed to pull a little more light from her spirit. And yet, in the middle of that silent pain, someone was listening. Lucy had seen enough. That night, as Sarah sat curled up with a blanket, quietly staring into nothing, Lucy turned her own worry into resolve. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, the glow of the screen reflecting in her eyes, and began a quiet battle of her own. She searched keywords relentlessly. Hair loss in senior women, postmenopausal alopecia, dermatology for aging scalp, natural regrowth in elderly, non-hormonal hair regrowth over 60. The forums were full of despair, but also full of voices, some desperate, some hopeful. Lucy scrolled through case studies, medical journals, personal blogs, and patient testimonies. She watched lectures from dermatology conferences, scribbled notes into a lined notebook. Ingredient names like biotin, niacinamide, and rosemary extract filled the margins. She read about scalp microcirculation, the importance of follicular stimulation, and how emotional stress shuts down cellular regeneration. Hours passed. Tea went cold. Pages filled, and then, just before midnight, she found a name that kept reappearing. A board-certified dermatologist with 2 decades of experience, renowned for his research on scalp aging and hair loss in elderly women. Affiliated with the California Medical Association, he had led studies, spoken at international summits, and pioneered non-invasive treatment programs specifically tailored for post-60 hair regeneration. She read through his clinical findings, highlighting everything. His words were measured, scientific, but underneath, there was compassion. A belief that senior hair loss deserved real answers, not dismissals. The next day, Lucy contacted his clinic. She filled out forms, uploaded photos of her mother's scalp, listed Sarah's medical history in careful detail. She added a handwritten note at the bottom, asking, almost begging, for guidance. By afternoon, they received a response. A personalized regimen had been reviewed and approved. Doctor plan arrived as a digital file, clear, structured, human. His assessment began with a gentle but firm reassurance. Hair loss at Sarah's stage, he noted, was common, but not irreversible. Her type showed signs of active follicles, meaning there was still potential for recovery. But it would require daily consistency, nutrition, physical scalp therapy, and stress regulation. The program was divided into 4 key pillars. Nutrition and supplementation. The body needed the right building blocks before any follicle could regrow. The prescribed foods were simple but intentional. Iron-rich greens like spinach and kale to oxygenate the blood, lentils and chickpeas for plant-based protein, sweet potatoes rich in beta-carotene, almonds and eggs for biotin, and keratin support, salmon and chia seeds for omega-3s, to reduce inflammation of the scalp, 8 full glasses of water a day, to keep the skin hydrated and cell membranes active. To assist the diet, a daily supplement routine was included. Biotin, 5,000 mcg, vitamin D3, 2,000 IU, zinc. 15 mg iron if blood tests revealed deficiency, collagen peptides to be taken with warm tea or broth, aiding cellular repair too. Scalp care and topical therapy. The health of the scalp, Dr. Wren explained, was as important as the hair itself. A nightly routine would include gentle scalp cleansing with a sulfate-free botanical shampoo such as alder and sage botanical wash, application of DermaPure Scalp Vitalizer, a serum made with caffeine extract, rosemary oil, and niacinamide to boost blood flow and follicular stimulation, Use of a Scalp Sync Massager Pro, a wearable tech cap. With low-frequency pulses designed to increase scalp circulation, enhance absorption of topicals, and relax tension built into the head muscles, Sarah was instructed to wear the device nightly for 20 minutes, preferably in silence or soft music, to reinforce calm. Physical practices and scalp stimulation. Daily manual practices would reawaken dormant areas of the scalp and regulate mood. This included light fingertip tapping across the scalp for 5 minutes each morning, daily scalp massage using warmed oils twice a week, rosemary and castor oil blend preferred, gentle brushing with a wide-tooth wooden comb to stimulate the surface without breakage, 10 minutes of light stretching and breathing exercises, particularly focused on shoulder, neck, and upper back mobility, where tension blocks cranial circulation. 4. Emotional and environmental support. Doctor emphasized that emotional health was vital to physical regeneration. Depression, anxiety, and internalized aging all contributed to systemic shutdowns, including hair growth. Lucy was encouraged to help her mother create an environment of peace. Soft routines, familiar smells, quiet music, natural light. All of. It worked in harmony to soothe the nervous system, and the follicles responded to peace, just as they shut down in stress. The letter closed not with clinical language, but with empathy. Doctor had treated hundreds of women like Sarah. He wrote, "There is still growth left in her. In the scalp, in the spirit. Do not measure progress only by inches of hair, but by the softness in her eyes returning." Lucy printed the regimen, highlighted each section. She made a list, created a weekly plan, ordered every product, some from medical suppliers, others from natural health stores. She spent hours organizing vitamin cases, pre-prepping meals, and designing a corner of the house as Sarah's personal wellness station. Everything was ready. What came next wasn't a transformation, but a process. Gentle, slow, intentional, and it began not with grand gestures, but with Lucy standing quietly behind her mother in the bathroom mirror, unscrewing a bottle of serum, warming it between her palms, and beginning the first of many loving circles on her mother's scalp. The first night of the treatment was quiet. There was no ceremony, no dramatic music. Just Lucy, standing behind her mother in the softly lit bathroom, rubbing the warm serum between her palms like prayer. The mirror reflected two women at different ends of life, but in that moment, their roles merged. One, aging. The other, anchoring. Sarah closed her eyes as Lucy began the massage. Her fingers moved slowly, applying gentle pressure, pressing the nourishment into the scalp like planting seeds. The scent of rosemary filled the air, earthy, calming, honest. There was no conversation, just breath and care. After the serum, Lucy reached for the device, the Queen Will's electric scalp massager. It looked futuristic, but it hummed with quiet. Purpose. She placed it gently over her mother's head and switched it on. Soft pulses began to stimulate the scalp, like tiny drumming fingers coaxing life back into sleeping follicles. For 20 minutes, Sarah sat still while the device did its silent work. There was something soothing in the routine, predictable, intentional, the kind of ritual that lets the body know it's safe to heal now. The next morning began differently than others. Instead of hurrying to dress or sit by the window, Sarah followed Lucy into the living room where a yoga mat had been rolled out. A kettle steamed on the side table. The air smelled like chamomile and eucalyptus. Soft piano music drifted from a speaker in the corner. Lucy guided her mother through light stretches. Neck tilts, arm raises, shoulder rolls, nothing strenuous. Just movement, slow and forgiving. Then came the breathing. Eyes closed. Inhale through the nose. Hold. Exhale through the mouth. Again. After 10 minutes, Sarah opened her eyes with a stillness she hadn't felt in years. The daily routine continued. Mornings began with a glass of warm lemon water, followed by a handful of supplements: biotin, vitamin D, zinc. Breakfast became small but powerful. Almond porridge topped with berries, avocado slices on toast made from sprouted grains. Lunches were bowls of lentils, turmeric roasted vegetables, and iron-rich greens. Dinners were light, with salmon, chia seed crackers, or vegetable soup simmered with garlic and ginger. Every step was deliberate. Food was no longer comfort, it was medicine. Sarah's hands, once trembling with sadness, grew steady as she mixed collagen powder into her tea. She began to look forward to the scalp massage. Her body learned to anticipate the warmth of oil, the rhythmic tapping, the buzz of the circulation cap. And slowly, her body responded. The first change was in her skin. A softness returned to her face, less tension, more glow. Her cheeks held a gentle flush, and the fine lines seemed less etched. Her sleep deepened. She no longer startled awake in the middle of the night, clutching sadness. Then came the change in her hair. At first, it was simply less. Less hair in the brush. Less clogging the shower. Less fallen across her pillow each morning. Lucy noticed before Sarah did. The shedding had slowed. Weeks passed. The scalp massages continued nightly. The topical serum became part of her identity. Her hair care shelf, once cluttered with expired products, was now a simple altar of intention. Oil, serum, a wooden comb, and a journal where Lucy tracked progress. Each day. By the 4th week, Sarah noticed something herself. Tiny, soft hairs, lighter than her natural gray, began to sprout along her hairline and temple edges. They weren't much, but they were new. They curled delicately like the edge of a fern unfolding. Sarah touched them gently, as if afraid they might vanish. But they stayed. The emotional change was even more profound. Sarah began speaking more, moving more, smiling, not for others, but for herself. She started playing her old records, humming, along to melodies from years long past. She stepped outside more often, sitting on the porch with a book or watering the plants that had gone dry during her months of retreat. Her confidence returned not all at once, but in small, dignified steps. She began wearing earrings again, and scarves, not to hide her head, but to accent her grace. Lucy caught her once standing in front of the mirror, tilting her head gently, studying the new growth with a faint, approving nod. Doctor checked in at the 6-week mark. Though the call itself was brief, the report was glowing. Based on Lucy's careful tracking and Sarah's consistency, they were ahead of expectation. The follicles were reacting. The scalp was healthier. No inflammation. The shedding had dropped by over 70%. And more importantly, Sarah's emotional state had stabilized. Healing had begun not just on the surface, but deep within. Month 2 passed with quiet discipline. Sarah rarely missed a session. Even on days she felt tired, she showed up for the massage, for the stretching, for the serum. Her body had adjusted to the rhythm. The stress had less hold on her. Her face became expressive again. Wrinkled, yes, but animated with character, not weariness. By the time month 3 arrived, the changes were undeniable. Her hair looked fuller, not thick, not like her youth, but healthy. Alive. The patches that once showed pink scalp were now softened with texture. Her crown, once exposed and tender, had new density. And the baby hairs had grown longer, framing her face with gentle curves. But what changed most was her voice. It no longer trembled with defeat. It had strength again. She spoke with clarity, with timing, with the confidence of someone who had been to the edge and decided not to stay there. Lucy, once exhausted with worry, now carried a different expression. Pride, respect, awe. Together, they had rebuilt something that no pill or cream alone could fix. A woman had reclaimed herself, and it had all begun with one night, one screen, one choice to try. The final stretch of the program is now just a continued quiet discipline that had become a part of Sarah's life. The habits that once felt foreign were now as natural as brushing her teeth. The oil, the serum, the scalp massage, the water, the breathing. Each act had woven itself into her daily rhythm, not as treatment, but as a form of care, a conversation between her and her body, once long abandoned, now rekindled. By the 10th week, the changes in Sarah's appearance were no longer subtle. Her Hair, though still fine and silver, now had a visible softness and coverage that didn't exist before. The thin patches had filled in. The scalp no longer shone through like bare earth. Her hairline had thickened just slightly but meaningfully. She no longer needed to shift her scarf or position herself away from light to avoid catching her reflection. She met the mirror now with directness, with acceptance. She was not the woman she used to be. She was something better, someone restored. Her skin, too, had changed. Where it once sagged with the weight of stress and fatigue, it now held a calm firmness. The inflammation around her cheeks had receded. Her lips held more color. Her eyes looked clearer, not younger, but more awake. The emotional toll that hair loss had taken on her was still remembered, but it no longer defined her days. She began hosting small things, inviting a neighbor for tea, or helping Lucy prepare meals for the week. She reorganized the living room, rearranged furniture, played music, wrote in her journal. These were not grand gestures, but they were signs of life resuming, not survival, but living. Lucy had watched the change slowly and faithfully, but even she wasn't prepared for the moment that would come one sunny afternoon. It was the last week of the 3rd month. These, 2 of them had returned from a short walk. Sarah had worn a wide straw hat, her hair tucked gently beneath. She had walked with grace, slow but upright. At the kitchen table, she untied the scarf she'd worn beneath her hat and smoothed it. Gently in her lap, Lucy looked up. For the first time without suggestion, Sarah wasn't covering her head. She didn't explain. She didn't look for approval. She simply sat in her own skin. Comfortable. Whole. That evening, they performed the final massage of the 12-week plan. Lucy moved with a kind of reverence, knowing the significance of this final ritual. The oil warmed in her hands just like it had on day 1. The motion was the same, but everything had changed. Sarah's body leaned into the treatment, not because she was desperate, but because she respected what it had done for her. Her body was not the enemy anymore. It was an ally. Aging, yes, but capable. Resilient. That same night, Lucy uploaded the final round of scalp photographs to Dr. Wren's clinic. She completed the program questionnaire, listing all improvements in Sarah's condition: reduced hair shedding, new hair growth, improved skin tone, better sleep, stabilized mood, and renewed appetite. The response came the next day. Doctor's team had reviewed the case. Sarah's results were marked as above average improvement in senior stage alopecia. Her scalp, based on photo analysis, showed no signs of inflammation, dryness, or infection. The follicles in the thinning areas had reactivated, confirmed by the density of new growth. But more importantly, the hormonal and emotional stress indicators, tracked through lifestyle reporting, had decreased significantly. They recommended maintenance now. No longer daily rituals, but weekly ones. Scalp care 3 times per week. Supplements ongoing. Stress management continued. A new normal. Sarah was, medically and emotionally, in recovery, and so her story found its rhythm again. Her days were no longer governed by what she had lost, but by what she had gained back. Her dignity, her connection with her daughter, her belief that life after 65 could still hold transformation. Lucy had not only helped her mother recover, she had helped her rediscover a relationship with her own womanhood. One that didn't end when youth faded. One that matured, strengthened, softened. Sarah's house was no longer silent. There was the clinking of teacups, the soft thud of yoga mats being rolled up, the sound of a brush moving through real, healthy strands of hair. The hum of the scalp sync device still filled the air some nights, not out of desperation, but out of devotion. It became clear that this wasn't just a personal recovery. It was a message. To every older woman who had ever looked in the mirror and felt invisible. To every senior who had been told, it's just age, nothing to be done. To every daughter or son who had watched a parent retreat inward from the shame of losing a part of themselves. Sarah's journey had proven something deeper. Hair loss in old age is not vanity. It is a medical, emotional, and human issue. And It is not something to be ignored, dismissed, or accepted without question. It deserves treatment, attention, hope, and above all, it deserves love. For the body is always listening. It never stops responding to care. Whether 25 or 65, the body is not done healing until we stop asking it to. Sarah never expected to have her hair back. What she got instead was far more powerful. She got herself back, and with Baldness. That, a message for everyone watching. Do not wait for youth to fight for your well-being. Do not surrender to age like it is defeat. You are allowed to age with grace. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to feel beautiful. You are allowed to heal. Hair loss is not the end. For Sarah Adge, it was the beginning.